So my wife and I are from Montana. We grew up like in the wilderness with the bears and the moose and the deers and the other scary things. And that was just our life. We grew up outdoors with all these crazy animals, and we know what they're like. We know what to do with them, right? So when we talked about going to Nara, Japan, where supposedly you can like pet the deer and feed them and be besties with these wild deer, was like, hell no, because of a very specific first-hand experience that I had when I was younger. But we'll talk about that later. All right, so today we're going to talk about Nara, Japan. Um, we're not going to do the whole rating thing today because we were only there for about a half a day, so we didn't spend the night. We didn't really do a lot of eating or anything there, so I can't really compare it to the other places. But we are going to talk about it because it was amazing. I'm pretty sure it's called Nara because that's Japanese for Narnia, and that's what it reminds me of. But moving forward, so it's definitely not. We've talked about Tokyo already and Osaka, which were very kind of metropolitan. Nara's not like that. It's very much like a country setting. It's an hour train ride out of Osaka. You get out and it's just like it's clean, it's quiet, other than all the tourists, but it just has that country vibe, and it was really cool. And you come out of the train station and you walk down. We just walked. We didn't take any of the local transportation. So you walk down, it's maybe a half mile, I think, something like that, to the deer park and where all the cool stuff is. And there's these little shops. There's like people in kimonos everywhere, and there's delicious food and cool little souvenir shops. And it was just kind of, it reminded me of like a small town in Montana where we're from. Excuse me, only Japanese and not Montanan. But the only downside to it, it was super busy, like this road and the very first part of the deer park and stuff. It was really busy, with tourists that were also there to see the awesomeness. But we found that if you kind of went just a little ways off of the main trail there, it would lessen quite a bit. So we went there we were going to go see the deer park, and we were going to go to the Tadaiji temple. Those were our two main things, and we had no idea. There were temples and shrines everywhere. You could turn off of the main road, and it was like temple after temple after temple after like a cool, super awesome manicured garden and cherry blossoms, and it just went on and on, the awesomeness, like down all the side streets, mixed in with these cool, like old feeling traditional Japanese houses. So it was really neat. But after going through all these temples, and with the temples in Japan, if you didn't know, like you can get a book, and every temple they'll stamp it, but it's like there's a stamp, but then they like hand paint stuff around the stamp to show that you were there and you worshipped at this temple, and it's really neat. And it's very convenient that there in Nara they have so many temples because you can like fill up a book. I'm pretty sure we did fill up our book with the temple stamps from Nara. But we do finally get to the deer park. We'll talk about that in a minute. We kind of just blasted through the first part and went to the Tadaiji temple, and it was incredible. We went to a lot of different temples while we were in Japan, and if you've seen our other stuff, while we were in Vietnam and while we were in Thailand, and we saw some really cool stuff. But this one was amazing. First of all, it is a UNESCO heritage site. It was first opened in 752, the year 752, and it was rebuilt a couple times. The most recent time it was rebuilt was the year 1709. That's 1709. So the structure that's there today was built in 1709. And inside, like the main building, and then there's a few buildings, but the main one inside is the world's largest bronze Buddha, and it is awesome. I think in Thailand or Vietnam, we saw the world's largest gold Buddha. The reclining one is like all stretched out, kind of like a wiener dog. But I was probably not supposed to say that about Buddhas, but this was like a Buddha, like what you would think, a normal little statue, right? But it was monstrous. It was so big, and there was other giant statues to either side of it and behind it. There was a cool, like a pillar that was hollowed out on the bottom, and you could crawl under, and it said that if you go through there on the other side of the pillar in inside the temple that you would arrive at Nirvana, and that was right there next to the giant Buddha. The giant Buddha itself, it was built in 752, the year 752, and it is its own UNESCO monument. So it was really really neat. And there's like cherry. It was one of the only places that we saw like full big cherry blossoms, and it was just a really really cool, really beautiful place, the Tadaiji Temple in Nara. Um, and so were the other temples. The other temples around were amazing, but the Tadaiji really stands out amongst the other ones that we saw. Um, all right, and then we'll talk about this deer park, right? So the deer in Nara are considered to be divine and sacred. And I'm going to say some things here, and I'm probably going to say them wrong, but the god Takamakazuchi, a long, long, long time ago, visited, and he was riding on a white deer. And ever since then, the deer were considered divine and sacred, to the point where they had laws. If you killed one of the sacred deer, that was a capital offense, right? And the last time that somebody committed this capital offense in the area where the deer are considered sacred is the year 1637. So that's how serious they take it. Nobody's done this since the year 1637. And the deer themselves, after World War II, were made a natural monument. So the deer are considered a monument. And you can go in and you can feed them, and some of the deer will even like come up and they'll bow to get you to feed them, right? And there's some like really fat tubby deer that are just chilling in a pile of these crackers that you buy. But if you move away from the main, like the very entrance of the deer park, you see them, they look more normal and they're out and about, but they're still very friendly. People still get hurt by the deer. I think I read like 160 people on average get hurt by the deer in our park. We saw a tiny child get kind of headbutt, like a soft headbutt. But other than that, you could pet them, you could feed them. It was really crazy. And there's the deer park itself is like, I think a total, including the Tadaiji temple grounds and some other stuff. They're all right in this clump of land. It's like 1,800 acres, something like that. And there's deer, there's wild boar, there's flying squirrels, there's something called a raccoon dog. I have no idea what it is, and I didn't see one. But supposedly they're in there, and you can go out away, like I said, and the farther you go, there's less people, and the deer are more natural and less like tubby, lazy deer. But it was really cool. It was, like I said in the beginning, that Nara had to be short for like Narnia, or Japanese for Narnia, because that's the feeling that you get. There's these wild deer that come up, they actually bow, you feed them, you can pet them. It's just a really weird experience if you're used to the deer that I'm used to, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But really neat. Cherry blossoms, maples, plums, so lots of cool trees. Like I said, around the edges, like where you first enter from that main road, it's stupid busy. There's people everywhere, and those are the fat, lazy deer and piles of crackers. But you don't have to go very far in any direction. You get away from that. And about the town, like real close there, the food was really good. There was a local brewery we went to. The drinks were amazing. The food was really good, reasonably priced. We had mochi. I don't know how to say it for sure, but it's like this it's almost like bread dough, but it's sweet and delicious. We had that. It was awesome. So really, really enjoyed Nara. We were only there for like a half a day. It was super cool. It was probably one of my favorite parts, other than another place we went to in Kyoto that I think the whole family really enjoyed. But Nara was awesome. So the reason I was hesitant to go to this place where you can pet deer, right? When I was younger, I grew up in Montana, and used to go to this piece of property on the lake, Flathead Lake up there. And there's all kinds. There's deer, there's moose, there's bear. You see it all up there. Was definitely charged by a moose up there, and there was a deer just chilling down by the lake. And I don't know whose idea it was, but I was there with some family, and they were like, "Oh, you should go give this deer a potato chip." I was like, "Yeah, I'll give this deer a potato chip because I don't have any fears." And I go down and I get the potato chips out of the car, and I'm gonna draw, I think, a little picture here so you see there's like lake, trees on one side, trees on the other, one skinny road that you can come in or out where the trees don't block you, and there's a car blocking half of that. And then the deer. So the deer was essentially trapped in front of the car if I was blocking the road. And I was trying to bring this deer a potato chip, and it like went and stomped its feet and then charged me. And I turned around and ran as fast as I could straight up that road, across the street, and into the dense forest. And I just kept running, and so did the deer. And eventually it turned, and I may or may not have cried in the forest by myself. Either way, I learned that day, you don't feed deer, right? I don't care who says you should feed the deer. You don't feed the deer. It makes them angry, and they hiss. I didn't know deers hiss, but they hissed. And then I got some exercise. But that was why. It wasn't like that at all in Nara. It was really, really cool. Definitely recommend it. Yeah, just like I recommend you probably like this video and subscribe, because why not? And put in the comments if you want to see anything else, have recommendations, think these videos are silly. Put it in there. Don't even care. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks. Bye.